So my experience in my rise in the media industry has really been interesting. I've been in the media industry for the past 15 years in Zambia, and it's not been without its challenges. It's been the industry that you have to push to be noticed, push for opportunities. Your eyes should be wide open for what you can jump onto, and if not, you're left behind. So it's been really interesting. I'm grateful to all the people that gave me a chance. From the beginning of my journey, it's all been about showing up and doing my best, giving my A game, and continuously improving.
Thank you. And what barriers did you face in getting where you are today?
I think the biggest barrier that I faced in my journey was initially, especially, it was a very male-dominated industry. A lot of men got the good jobs. And I felt at the time, just because there were men, it was said it was on merit, but it didn't feel that way. And I think I was set to prove that girls could also do it and women could do it too and should be paid right. So that was a thing. The men were getting the jobs or they were being paid higher for something. So I remember once telling someone that I can do a festival, a music festival, as a woman, and I want to MC the whole festival on my own. And the first festival I was given to do, I was with a guy. And the next one I said, I want to be paid exactly what you would pay another man to do this festival alone. And that's how I got to MC the Siyavonga Music Fest on my own. And I think I kicked, I did well. So that has been, I think, one of the biggest challenges for women, being told you can't do this is only for men, and men should only be paid so much and a woman can only be paid so little. And that's something I fought really hard, and I continue fighting today. And I think there are so many other women that have come up, and I think in terms of personal branding, the women in media today are doing a way better job than the men.
Thank you. So from your interactions with other women, those are barriers that you faced. What other barriers do you feel other women in the country are facing?
I think the sexual issue comes to play a lot, and not just in media, but I think this is something that I've not just struggled with, and even other women are struggling with in the workspace, where because the men are the ones in power, and that's because of a systematic issue from the past where it was very patriarchal and they got a seat at the table and women didn't, because they're in that seat of power, they then say, if you want to rise, you need to, get a sexual, be okay with sexual favors. So that's a very, very big issue. And that's why I think even when HIV came to play in the media space, you found that a lot of women, got infected because they were sleeping with these powerful men who were positive. Sometimes we've heard such stories before. So it really goes deep, how deep this issue can be. And I feel even though it's getting better, we still need to put together compliance issues where, as a young woman, if a man approaches you, you should be open enough, and there should be a space from HR to listen to you and do something about it. Right now, I don't think we have that in place. And so that's why it is still going on, even though the numbers have gone down of how many women are approached, because there's still that fear now because of how much people are talking about it. But I still feel from an HR standpoint, whether in any organization, whether it's media or not, we need to really have strict rules about what happens if someone does that.
You mentioned the barriers that you faced and everything that you've gone through getting here. What is it that you would change about your experience to make it better?
I think when I look at my past, what would I change? I would take more with me. I think that there's many women that have my personality where we're going for it, we're going to do this, but let's also raise more women with us to do the same, and encourage them to do the same and stand up and raise your voice sooner than I feel I raised my voice. I think I spoke up much later than I should have, and if there's one thing I could change, I wish I had done that earlier. Another thing I wish that I could have changed, and I can't change how other people acted, I can change what I did about it, but it's also about having confidence in my craft and understanding that my craft is good enough. Because I'm continuously working on my craft, being bold enough to take certain steps earlier than I actually did. So I guess those are the changes I wish I could have made.
What would you say is the biggest threat women face in their growth today?
Ourselves. Firstly, self-doubt because of what we've been taught and what culture may tell us. But also, it's not just yourself as a woman who's been told that, the next woman has been told that. So when she sees you rising, sometimes she's there to pull you down. This is an argument that a lot of people have, and they'll say, no, there are women that support women. Yes, they are. And I believe that because I have seen that, I've experienced it. But I also know, because of our culture, even on social media, you find more women being torn down than men, and by women themselves. And I feel that needs to change.
How can we change it?
By speaking up about it, doing what I'm doing right now, calling it out, and then calling out anyone that does the same. If someone close to me posts something on social media that I feel is demeaning to another woman, I call them out. The women in my circle know that. I call them out to say, that's not what we should be doing. We should be raising each other up and not tearing each other down. Because not all men support men, but rarely will you see them publicly or on social media calling each other out. That's not something that they really like to do. So I think we need to take up the same attitude.
Thank you. Another thing, when it comes to, you've now broken into entrepreneurship. How has that experience been like for you?
My entrepreneurship journey has been really, really interesting. Not without its challenges. It's been hard. I've had to really, really, really keep on pushing, even when I have failed. I've publicly failed before. But I'm grateful for the support system that I have, which is also has a lot of powerful women around me who, and when I say powerful, it's not just in their status in society, but powerful in their spirit and who don't give up. And right now I've partnered with another very, confident, amazing, incredible, hardworking woman who is more like a mentor to me, and I'm learning from her. I think my biggest lesson in entrepreneurship so far is staying teachable, because each business I've ventured into, even as a consultant, getting into Dagon Media, and now with Freeshop, I am learning that there's always something new to learn. And there's times I have to unlearn what I thought I knew in order to get to the next level. And so my journey has been about growth. And even when there's failure, I feel that, I've grown from where I was when I started. And always look at that. It's so easy to say, I failed and I give up now. But when you look at the failure right there and say, where was I before? Did I manage to grow? If not, what can I do better? Or what lessons can I learn from this? And how can I then put together a better partnership, proposal for this new business I'm getting into? So it's about continually learning and unlearning.
Tell us about the business.
So Freeshop, as you can see, it makes me really happy, is an online shopping platform. So we've got an app and a website, www.afreeshop.com, and we're bringing convenience. We're bringing accessibility. We saw a gap in the market where lots of people want more affordable goods, and the pricing is not always great when the things come down. And we decided to partner with different manufacturers in China, and now we've got a strong supply chain. So you're able to shop for 1 or 2 pieces on the app, which are direct from manufacturer at a reasonable price, and we are also on courier service. We've had, our parent company has been in the business of trading and sourcing, shipping, and air freight for the past 17 years. So it was only the natural thing to do. But I think the most exciting thing about Freeshop is being able to empower other entrepreneurs like J-Rocks, who who wanted to produce something, and we said, hey, we've got the supply chain, and now he's got his Prestige Hunter sneaker out, the J-Rocks edition. And that's what we want to do for more entrepreneurs. We have someone else launching soon, Tinted Cosmetics. That's Christina Sakala, our supermodel, and she's launching her own product. And that's what we want to be able to do, not just for Zambian entrepreneurs, but African entrepreneurs, and give them a space, a marketplace where they can be able to shop online, where people can be able to shop online from different countries.
Thank you. So it's said in Zambia that when a Zambian thrives, they want to thrive alone. But from what you said, you are picking up people and growing with them. Why do you think that's important?
When we look at entrepreneurs worldwide and the most successful, they are not successful because they did it alone. And an economy to grow is not done just because one person, did it. And so our belief here at Freeshop is, if we want to grow, our mentality is that we need to collaborate, we need to help each other, use the resource that you have. We like to say, use what's in your hand. That my business partner Miu always says that, use what's in your hand. Look at what's in your hand, use it to empower the other person that has something in their hand too. And you never know, those two can come together and build something really, really incredible. So that's why we're so passionate about it. I think I'm all about heart and giving back. And I think in business, you can also create business that has a social impact. And that's what we are trying to do with Freeshop.
How does Freeshop differ from these other courier services who tell you buy things from China, the UK, and stuff like that? How do you differ?
I think the difference for Freeshop and what differentiates us is the supply chain. We are not just going to different vendors. We are going directly to the manufacturer and helping you source good products. So even resellers can come here and say, well, I want 20 dresses, and we'll get you the 20 dresses. I want earphones. I can get you those 20 earphones. And then I don't tell you, now find your own shipping company. I'm saying I'm your one-stop shop. And we'll be able, through another collaboration with Max Speedies for Zambia, we're able then to deliver it to your doorstep. So that's what sets us apart.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on. How do you think gender can be mainstreamed in what you mentioned, especially earlier with the businesses, in order for us to have more women participating?
If my statistics are right, I think that there are more female entrepreneurs than male entrepreneurs, especially in Zambia. And that's a good thing. What can we do to grow? I think that should be the discussion. How can we scale our businesses? I feel there's a lot of male entrepreneurs, though the number might be smaller, who've understood how to scale. And I talked about this recently in another interview, where we've got spaces like Bongo Hive that are helping young entrepreneurs and young and old entrepreneurs be able to scale beyond just a business that caters for 100 customers. How can you scale to be nationwide and then scale to be global? A good example of female entrepreneurs that are scaling are Savannah Chocolate. I have not yet met the women behind Savannah Chocolate, but I have looked at them, I've studied what they're doing, and I love what they're doing. And so I think that's what we need to be looking at. How can we look at the current entrepreneurs that we have, instead of just saying, let's grow to more entrepreneurs? How can we look at the current entrepreneurs that we have and see how they can scale, which will teach the upcoming entrepreneurs how they can do the same. We need to start looking at, how do I move from being a small boutique in Northmead or making peanut butter at home and selling to a little shop, and moving on into selling into ShopRite, and then moving on into selling beyond Zambia. How do we scale like that? One of the biggest issues is also financing. So when it comes to scaling, a lot of women are saying we don't have access to financing. So maybe we need to look at policies around that. How can women have easier access to financing? How can we have more entrepreneurship education for women? I know there's We Create that's also doing a great job. So there are spaces trying to do that. We just need more.
They are mothers, they take care of families, and you're no exception to that. How are you able to balance where your work is calling, your family is calling, and many women face that challenge? How do you still thrive? Because when I see you, I don't see a family, I just see one woman.
That is the question I get asked a lot. That is the top question whenever Lulu is being interviewed, and that is, how do you balance? I feel if you follow me on social media, you'll be able to see that Lulu is about, yes, work, but then she's a wife, she's a mother. So there's children, there's family, there's Lulu cooking, there's Lulu baking. I try to show those aspects so that you understand that I'm not just there flying around the world and doing business, but I'm also a cultured woman that understands my role, and that is that role of being a mother and that role of being a wife. But then how do you balance? My belief, or what I believe has balance is for me, is sacrifice. Something always loses out when I make a choice to do it. So when I choose to go out and work and travel, I have to sacrifice time with my family that I would have loved to spend with my family. And there are times I shut off the world so that I concentrate on my family. Sometimes sacrifice means waking up at 6 a.m. to bake their favorite chocolate cake because I know I'm going to be extremely busy. And I sacrifice my sleep, sometimes even earlier, to do something that I know will make my family happy, my humans, as I call them, happy. So for me, balance has been sacrifice. It's some form of sacrifice, and I don't want anyone to assume it's extremely easy. No, it hasn't been easy. But I think as women also, when you're a business person and you're a wife and you are a mother, we forget self. So I'm trying to learn how to take care of self, and that's part of the balance. And I know that taking care of self and trying to do something for myself will mean maybe sacrificing either time for work or time for my children, but it's important.
For some women, the biggest barriers are their husbands and their families, where you're trying to do something and you've got a husband who's not supportive. How can women still thrive in situations like that?
To the young women who are not yet married, choose, and young men, choose your partner wisely. I think we need to be with partners that understand where our vision is. But sometimes it changes. You might not have been that person when you got married. And it is a barrier. But and I can't speak for anyone else and say, you should change. This is me now. It's harder for some men to accept that. So I understand that's a barrier. And in my case, it really hasn't, because I think I was very clear about my personality and where my mind was and what my dreams were. I wanted to take over the world. That's always been me. And so my partner knew that from the onset and is not shocked by it. He also told me what his dreams were. And so I think even as a woman, and yes, we say it's a woman's world now, sometimes the idea of feminism is diluted into thinking that it means only the woman thrives. We all want to thrive, and that's what equality is to me. It's about both of us thriving. So my husband respects me and my vision. I respect his too. So yeah, for some it's a little too late to give this advice. But for those that it's not, please marry someone that will respect your vision. And that's love. For me, that's love. Love is respecting each other.
Good. Let's talk about resistance. Have you ever faced resistance leading men?
I have faced resistance leading some men. It doesn't happen a lot. And I've just realized that I need to prove myself. And so sometimes as a woman, you have to work that much harder so that they can see why you are there. But in my experience, when I have had that experience, I've just had to work that much harder, prove myself, and then they finally see, oh, I see why you were put in that position. I see why you are there. Or I see why you were selected for this. Because you've shown that you deserved it. And you were not just put there as a woman. And so I fight this quota system when they're like, no, we need this number of women. I say, we need this number of women that are getting this job not because they're women, but because they're good at what they do. And so if any man comes and tries to say, no, why is she there? They will see through their work why that woman was placed there.
Thank you. You are an influencer on social media. You've got like over 100,000 on Facebook now, I believe. And most people know you through that. They follow you there. But also the same social media has become detrimental now. It's more destructive than constructive. We've seen women being cyberbullied, women being shown naked because she was, found with a man. So there's always this negativity surrounding social media. And for people that follow you, how can you help them to get the best out of it and leave the negative behind?
When I look at my social media, I feel I'm blessed. I'm blessed with an audience that are the most kindest people. I should be very honest. Once in a while, I'll get a critique, but normally it's constructive criticism. And for me, I think it's because I grew a very organic following over the years. I think I've been on Facebook for about 8 years now, and my following has been extremely organic, and people have been really, really kind. And my content has stayed sort of consistent, and I've grown with it. But do I see the bad side of social media? Yes, I do. I've taken part in a number of Say No to Cyberbullying campaigns because I feel it's important to voice this out to my audience. So if you have the numbers, I feel you should use your influence for social good. And when you see there's a problem, speak on it. So I have spoken about this to my audience and hope that they can share it to even more people who might not be in my circle of influence, because I feel it's important. So just like I spoke before, I see that sometimes the women are the perpetrators of the bullying. And that's why it's important for me to mention it, even before you asked about, the cyberbullying and so forth. But is social media a very good space to grow and learn? Yes, it can be. So I implore more women, I implore men and women actually, to look at the positives of what they can learn through social media. My social media has been my CV for the longest time. I don't always get asked for my CV because it's there for you to see. So use your social media for the same way. You don't need 100,000 followers. You influence the 100 people that might be following you right now. And those 100 people might be looking at your social media for reference, and that might be your CV. The world is changing. It's a technological world. And you ask many human resource managers, they are looking at that. So let's just be aware of that.
Okay, two last questions. One, from the social media, you've been used as an ambassador, I think, for UNAIDS and other organizations. And most influencers that we have in the country also aspire for that kind of recognition. What do you think most of them are doing wrong that is not getting them such kind of high-profile engagements?
I feel that there's a lot of very influential people in Zambia and on our social media platforms. Why do I get some of those opportunities? I would say what I've learned so far is maybe just staying consistent. What is your messaging? What is your voice? What do you stand for? And stay consistent with that, and the opportunities will come. I've never gone to UNAIDS and said, hey, I want this job, I want to do this. What I've done is started the We Keep Moving initiative, started doing work, raising my voice where I felt was important to raise on certain issues. I am not political, but when I see political violence, I'll speak on it. When I see someone being bullied, I speak on cyberbullying. I'm very passionate about health. I think you can see, if you look through my social media, there's sort of a messaging and the type of causes I go with, which are consistent. I'm currently working with Dettol because I worked on the Keep Zambia Clean, Green and Healthy campaign. And so they came back to me because I stayed consistent. I am not a voice just for a campaign. I stay consistent with my voice because when I attach myself to a cause, it truly is something that I mean. I'm doing it from like a true place from my heart. And it's something that I won't stop talking about just because I'm not being paid for it anymore. So I think that's the one thing that I would just advise is to say, if that's something you're looking at, then stay consistent and do it from an honest place, because being fake about it will finally show, because it'll be very hard to stay consistent on that. And not every engagement that I am picked for is paid for. So for example, as a UNAIDS Goodwill Ambassador, I'm not paid for it. I did it voluntarily. So when they approached me, they told me it was not paid for, But I still felt it was important because HIV does not only affect me, it's affected and infected many people really, really close to my heart. And I've seen the impact of it.
See themselves where you are today, what advice would you give to them? And then just after you're done answering that question, would like to know what is it that you would like to be remembered for?
Okay. So to your young woman out there today, my advice would be, I stated earlier, stay teachable. Believe in yourself. Your dreams are valid. It will not always be easy for you, especially that you're a young girl or you're a young woman, but that should never stop you. Keep pushing. When you get down, just take that as a pause and not as a stop. As my mantra says, we keep moving. What would I like to be remembered for? I would like to be remembered for my heart. And I hope that whenever my final day comes on earth, when you speak of my heart, you speak of a heart that touched lives and that made a real meaningful impact.
Thank you.